Kuhn is the fullback with the first and goal. Kuhn gets the ball. Pyle trying to make his way in for the touchdown. What a great second effort.
Y'all don't really want it like that. Here comes the. Y'all don't really want it like that. I said so. I keep big bills up in my heart on the dirty like blood. So ain't got no twist in my head, but I'm still dreadful.
Wolfpack, what's going on? It's your boy, the Wolf of Roto Street. RotoStreetJournal.com. We breed and feed you fantasy wolves. Here with your Week 14 fantasy preview. Your Thursday night football sit starts. Oh, baby. It's pretty much the playoffs already, folks. Do or die time for so many of you. Hunting for the buys for many others. And just trying to avoid last place for many others as well. 1 week left in the regular season. Let's get it, Wolfpack. We have to win. I, of course, am the Wolf of Roto Street at Roto Street Wolf, here to help you sift through all those sit-start decisions you've got related to tonight, related to Sunday, and, of course, giving you my preview of all the guys I want to sit, start, Hail Marys, all of that good stuff. Of course, the truth is usually with me, but sadly, his son has wrestling practice now on Thursdays, so we might have to figure out a new time. Maybe we do the show on Wednesdays. We're going to figure it out. I've popped up out of nowhere today, so sadly, no Truth tonight. Hopefully, we can get him to join on Sunday with me and CJ or something like that, maybe a three-way. Who knows? Because it's always fun chatting ball with my guy, the Truth. But for tonight, you guys have to deal with only me. Sorry about it in advance. I missed the Truth already, too. But thanks for being here. If you're here early and you're already getting yourself settled in, please do consider that thumbs up button. Whether you're here live, whether you're catching the replay, it's so greatly appreciated to help us get out to more people. If you want to wait to hear that you like what I'm talking about, totally understand it. Make me earn your like, and hopefully I do. But thanks so much for spending your Thursday night with me. Let's get on in, Wolfpack, to this game. What a game we got to kick off the final week of the fantasy regular season. The Raiders and the Rams. Oh, my God, how the mighty have fallen. Super Bowl champ Rams, already a laughing stock. Nowhere up in sight either, given that they do not have a first-round draft pick. The Lions snagged that. Man, the Lions might actually be headed to the playoffs while getting a top 5 pick. Few teams in that situation right now. I mean, the Eagles might win the Super Bowl with this New Orleans Saints top 5 pick too. There's so much craziness. A lot of teams set up very well for the future here. The Rams not being one of them. But let's talk about tonight's prospect. Home underdogs and pretty big underdogs for the Rams. I actually like taking the Rams +7, taking the points. I like the fact that they're at SoFi, even though fair weather fans of all, that's going to be an issue. But I do think the Raiders, yes, the better team. But don't forget, this Raiders team is not good. They haven't been good all year. They have their flashes where they could beat anybody, but they constantly shoot themselves in the foot. Do I think the Raiders win? Probably. Money line-wise, I would take the Raiders, but I don't think they're going to cover 7 points, a full touchdown, an extra point. I do take the Rams. In that case, I take the under. I think it's a pretty ugly field goal fest game here with a bunch of boots coming from Danny Carlson, from Matty Gay. That's where I see this game going. Covering a few news and notes out of this one, though. So, again, I'm taking the Rams with the points, the under at 42. Let's talk about some news and notes and a question that might bring a lot of you guys here for Thursday Night Football. There's not a ton of up-in-the-air fantasy starts. You either have Josh Jacobs, you have Devontae Adams. You're not asking about them. You know those guys are lineup locks. Jacobs, the MVP of the year. Devontae Adams, fresh off, 40 points? I mean, one or the other is going off for 25, 30 a week. The other is usually also producing, even when it's Adams' turn. Jacobs is still putting up 20. So these two are monsters locked into your DraftKings showdown lineups, unless you want to play the Jacobs gets hurt, let's sneak in Zamir White for 1,200 line. That could be a way to differentiate. I'm not doing that myself if I'm only doing one lineup at least. But covering some news and notes, Donald is going to be out for the Rams. Honestly, wouldn't be shocked if he shut down for the year, similar to Cooper Kupp, similar to Matty Stafford. I wouldn't be shocked to see these studs for this Rams team shut down as the season continues to progress, this lost season for them. That makes, obviously, Josh Jacobs that much more appealing tonight, even though it is a good run D, certainly much better against the run than the pass this year. Losing Donald's a huge blow. So I think Jacobs, of course, boosts from that. You didn't need a boost anyways, though. He was going to be in your lineup. He was going to dominate. Now, the big question for tonight, we'll be tracking the news, is Baker Mayfield starting? We don't have quite official confirmation yet, but if Walford's unable to play, Adam Schefter did report that Baker Mayfield would start. Just after 2 days of joining this team. So one, you got to imagine that playbook is hideous, really, really pared down if Baker Mayfield's the starter. And two, Baker Mayfield was horrendous the last time we saw him. Ken McVay, revive him, save his career. I mean, if anybody could have been probably McVay, I would not expect that as early tonight. I would not be trusting anybody in that passing game. I did have Van Jefferson in a lineup at first, and then without it, the fact that I'm leaning on Wolford tells you why you probably shouldn't be planning Van Jefferson in the first place. I've decided instead to roll with both now that we got Mike Williams fully practicing. I'm tossing him back in with Josh Palmer. I'm going both Chargers receivers, benching Van Jefferson while I wait for some guys on bye. Christian Watson, the big one there, to come back and save my wide receiver 3 spot. But why waste the roster spot on Van Jefferson tonight? I'd rather roll with those 2 Chargers. So that's how I'm playing it. But the big question again, maybe the one guy in this game that could genuinely be considered startable but isn't a lock would be Cam Akers. What do we do with Cam Akers? Let's go through it. Let me tell you what I think is the play. He's in my top 24 running back, so I do consider him a very viable fantasy starter. After putting up 18 fantasy points, the running back 4, top 5 guy last week, Cam Akers. Did he look pretty doing it? No, 17 carries, 60 yards, 3.5 yards per clip. But I don't think the stats tell the full story. My guy Jonas Perry in the comments through the videos has mentioned Akers did look a lot better last week in terms of his change of direction. This was a brutal Achilles injury. I know he came back last year, but that's typically we see. I mean, Foreman's the first running back we've ever seen come back and actually look good. And that took him multiple seasons to get back to that point. So I do think Cam Akers might be finally finding his legs. Awful offensive line, terrible offense. He really got it done on the back of 2 touchdowns. Will they be in the red zone enough with whether it's Baker Mayfield, an injured John Wolford leading the charge, to sustain 2 touchdowns for Cam Akers tonight? I can't confidently say that. I do think he'll fall in once. It is the 6th best matchup for running backs facing this Raiders team. I mean, you look since week 8, what they've given up. Kamara, 38 points. Etienne, 25 points. Taylor, 23. Murray, Latavius, 15. Kenneth Walker, 16. And then Travis Homer, another 12 points on top of that. Eckler last week, a little bit disappointing with just 10 points. But overall, it has been a beautiful matchup for running backs. So I do think Akers has a lot of juice tonight. He isn't a must start. I'd love to know who else do you have up against him. But like I said, a fringe top 20 guy, right around 21 for me in my rankings, puts him right on the radar to start. A good question I got today from a buddy. Do I play Zay Jones or do I play Cam Akers? Both are in good matchups. Zay Jones is the 2nd best matchup for wide receivers. But in that case, I'm going to go with the running back. 72% of the snaps last week for Cam Akers. The game flow played into his favor. I know they ended up losing to the Seahawks, but in a close game, it does seem like Akers has regained the footing. At first, I was concerned. Is Kyron Williams going to take over? Is he going to be the guy? Do they just want to get a tryout, see what they have in their rookie? But no, this last week proved that if they're in the game, if it's a tight game, which I think it's going to be, as I said, I'm taking the Rams with the points. In that case, I think Akers will be most of the snaps. So I'm playing him. Most spots where I have him, I am playing Cam Akers tonight. We will see how that pans out. Zonovan Knight versus Cam Akers. I probably go Zonovan as that's the next man up in my rankings, but it's close given that Buffalo matchup. Let me know if you have a Cam Akers question. We will be sure to hit it. The last thing for tonight I want to cover is Zamir White, only 5% roster. Now, if your league allows roster churning, I think he's a great stash. If something happens to Jacobs, I love Zeus is his nickname for being a workout warrior, an absolute monster in the weight room as an athlete. Can catch the ball, not incredible as a pass catcher, but he has the skill set to be about 75-80% Jacobs if something happens to him. The schedule is pretty rough for Zamir White in the fantasy playoffs, so even if something happened to Jacobs, it's not like he's a lock walk-in. You're going to put him in every single week, but we'd be looking at 15-ish touches or so from a very strong athlete that has the fresh legs at the right time of the year. We see it happen every year. A couple running backs just go nuts. Tim Hightower a few years ago, Dion Lewis, Jerome Harrison for those old folks that have been playing like me forever. So could happen, could be Zamir White. Why not stash him now? Last week, it would have been James Cook, as we talked about on the show. Why not have him on your bench? You would have beat the rush. You would have beat the $30, $50 fab bids going out there on Tuesday. And if it sucks, then you cut it. Of course, this only applies to leagues that allow that roster churning, but do consider stashing Zamir White ahead of tonight's game just in case tragedy strikes. You'll have him sitting on the bench. You can always plug him in, cut him on tomorrow for your kicker, for whatever at that point. All righty, Wolfpack, that wraps up my Thursday night football preview. Again, I hope you enjoyed that. We do have a super chat to kick us off. So I just want to emphasize, if you want to jump the line, you want to get in while I'm going through the news and cut, by all means, please do support the show. It's so greatly appreciated. We typically get to all the questions before kickoff, but Thursday nights are one of the tighter shows, given that the kickoff is at 8:15 here tonight. So if you do have a must answer for tonight and you're worried if I'm not going to get it, plus you want to support the show, that super chat button is a great way to do it. A free way to do it, of course, is that thumbs up button. Please do consider hitting it with about 15 of you here. We typically get to like 50, 60 of you on a Thursday. Would love to help grow that audience, continue to get us up there. We'll pack, we're 50 away or so from 3K, marching our way there to end the season. Would love it. And not even a question from Charlie Manulock. It's just a toss-in support. Much appreciated, Charlie. Cheers to you, my man. You're the best. You already know your stuff, so I'm glad we can just sharpen the tools in that shed for you, baby. Let's go. Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate the support and kind words. Get those questions on in, Wolfpack. Let's cover some news for Week 14. You need to know that might impact the questions that you ask. Ian Rappaport reporting the Falcons will start Desmond Ridder. So this doesn't matter for Week 14 because the Falcons are on bye. But coming into Week 15, what's this going to look like? Who knows? It's a rookie. We haven't seen him on the field yet, but in the preseason, he showed a lot of moxie. He was really solid. He showed great leadership. And that was the thing coming out of Cincinnati. This guy's a leader of men. People that play for him want to be there. And that seems to be what the Falcons are lacking right now. So I'm very excited. At least it gives us a nice shakeup to end the season. But fantasy-wise, I think this guy could bring a little bit of a juice. He does have 4.52 speed. That's 97th percentile for quarterbacks, as well as a 95th percentile burst score, according to Player Profile. Great athleticism. And as we've talked about so many times on this show, Konami upside, running ability is such a cheat code for quarterbacks. Look no further. I mean, look this year. You got quarterbacks throwing for 150, 200 yards and finishing in the top 5 because they're running for 100 yards and a touchdown. Justin Fields is who I'm alluding to right now. Top 5 quarterback on the season on his legs alone. Now, this isn't a Justin Fields level rusher. He's not as elusive. He's not as fast, but he does bring Desmond Ridder a plenty of explosiveness. I do like, this is going to maybe make some people throw up. I think Arthur Smith's an actually pretty good offensive mind. The team then put up points. What he sucks at is using his personnel the right way. Doesn't use Kyle Pitts the right way. Doesn't use Drake London as much as he should. But the team still does put up points, and he likes to run the ball with his quarterbacks. We've seen it with Marcus Mariota, lesser of an athlete here. Plus, we had over 10,000 yards passing through his career for Desmond Ridder at Cincinnati, over 80 touchdowns, 87 to be exact. So the guy can throw, the guy can pass. Why not give him a stab if you're in a super flex league? Right now, not worth a Week 14 stash and a 1 QB, but if you're in a super flex and you don't have a limit to how many QBs you can roster, or you just say you got like Taylor Heineke or something that just, you know what it is and it's not that great at this point, why not put him on the bench, see if he goes off? The playoff schedule for Desmond Ridder isn't too shabby at all, with New Orleans 12th most points to quarterbacks, Baltimore 14th most, and then in the championship in Week 17, Arizona the 3rd most points, 2 signal callers. Could be a shootout style game where this guy goes nuts after you've seen him have a couple of weeks. Bam, he could go nuts in your playoff championship for you. So Desmond Ridder, worth a stash in those super flex leagues. Only other quarterback note I got for you is Trevor Lawrence. He did not practice on Thursday. It is a good spot against Tennessee. He keeps insisting he's going to play. I don't want to trust him at this point. What if it flares up? It looked like a pretty bad hit this guy took. I get the fact that the Titans are the premier pass funnel defense in the league. So good against the run, so bad against the pass. But I'm going to Tyler Huntley, for example. We'll talk about why in a little bit when we get to higher, lower Hail Mary. But I don't want to trust Trevor Lawrence at this point, bumping him down the ranks as the week progresses, whether he plays or not. Moving to running back, just 5 quick notes here. Swift practicing in full. We saw last week over 50% of the snaps, right back to that like early week 1-2 usage, which everybody was feeling pretty good about their 2nd round pick at that point. I still am a little wary of the guy. He always seems to get nicked up. But if I have DeAndre Swift, especially with all the buys and chaos of this week 14, I could go on an epic rant right now about why week 14, 6 teams on bye is just absolutely asinine. I'll spare you because we have a lot to cover and I want to make sure I spend plenty of time for your questions. But Swift is 100% in lineups for the most part. Top 20 running back. In fact, approaching my top 15 at this point. I think that game is going to be an absolute shootout. Minnesota versus Detroit, the best game on the slate this weekend. And I think Swift's going to need to be a major part of the scoring. The big news was he actually saw plenty of goal line work, even with Jamal Williams. That was the issue. Is Swift gets you to the one, Jamal pounds it in, has 3 touchdown days where Swift gets none. We saw them go to Swift 3 times at the stripe this last week, right in line with the usage for Jamal Williams. So I think you can feel great about firing him up again. Over half the snaps, including red zone work. I like DeAndre Swift quite a bit, especially now he's practicing in full. D'Onta Foreman did not practice on Wednesday, but was upgraded and was limited on Thursday. He said he's at about 95% for this weekend. I think he's absolutely locked in. Maybe you stash Chuba Hubbard just to be safe. Honestly, I hate Chuba Hubbard, even if he was the featured back. Wouldn't love it. Remember, Foreman got 24 carries last week. Out when the game is going to be tighter, especially when the Panthers have a lead, he's a great option. I don't think the Seahawks team is going to run away from this game. I think Foreman will be involved the entire time. The second best matchup for running backs right now. I love this spot for D'Onta Foreman, a fringe top 20 guy for me. Most lineups, I'm locking him in. Najee was limited in practice. It's probably just a maintenance day. He's still evolving into that feature back that he was last year. Looks a little bit more explosive with that plate out of his foot now. I'm trusting Najee where I have him. Nice floor. Ceiling's very limited. He does not look like overly great, but the volume's the volume. I like it. I trust it. Damian Harris, sideline still. We know what that means. Ramondre Stevenson, top 5 running back. Love that guy. And J.K. Dobbins is practicing on Thursday. I'm getting a lot of should I stash J.K. Dobbins? And honestly, I don't think so. I'm not about it. I mean, I've got granted, a lot of those questions were James Cook versus J.K. Dobbins. It's James Cook, and it's James Cook by a mile. I just don't trust, one, that this offense is all that special this year. Even with Lamar healthy, they've been right around the middle of the pack in terms of points per game. And 2, I think this running game is always going to be a headache for you. Right when you think you can trust Gus Edwards, he throws up an absolute stinker and gives you 1.2 last week, and Drake takes back over. Yes, when you think you can go back to Drake, Edwards will probably take over. And then Dobbins will come in. It's going to be a 3-headed nightmare, and nobody's going to have fun with it. I'm not sitting here saying I want J.K. Dobbins on any teams at this point. Go for it if you feel otherwise, but not for me. As talented as he was last year, I still think we're about a year away from Dobbins coming back to the form where we want to use him. At wide receiver, Mike Williams was upgraded to a full practice this week. It's tough because obviously last time out there, flared up with the ankle, was done for the next 3 weeks, crushed to the week that he got hurt. In this crazy, chaotic bye week, though, I'm honestly going Mike Williams where I have him. I don't have much of a choice. It's Van Jefferson or Mike Williams. That's a no-brainer. At that point, screw it. I'm not going to go to Van Jefferson for the upside of Mike Williams in a potential shootout against Miami on Sunday night. I have him right around my top 25 receivers. I think if you have Mike Williams, you're playing him. What does it mean for Palmer? Definitely a little bit of a downgrade, but I still think he's viable. Just like last time out, Mike Williams returned and Palmer had 2 touchdowns and 120 yards. His best day of the year. So I think all these charges are viable. I think it's maybe a slight hit on Keenan Allen, but honestly, not really. It clears out that middle of the field for him where he does his work the best. So I still like Mike Williams. I know it's risky, but it's going to be tough to not take risks this week. I'd rather take the risk on Mike Williams than some random streamer like Greg Dortch or something of that nature. Cortland Sutton remains sidelined for Thursday practice. Said it earlier. I'll say it again. Cut the guy. No reason to hold on to him. Purge your locker room of Broncos. They suck. You don't need me to spell that one out. They're fucking terrible. I don't want any Broncos on my team. Even Dolchik's I cut, and I know he had a good day, but it's just the stink of the Broncos. Cleanse yourself. Don't think about him anymore. See you later. That's how I feel about that fucking terrible organization and team right now. T. Higgins, this one's a little bit concerning. Did have his hamstring injury flare up. That's always a little bit of a risk with that midweek thing. Now, he did get a limited session in, so I'm not overly concerned yet, but something you obviously have to track, see what he does on Friday, see how involved he is heading into the weekend. A similar midweek downgrade was Deontay Johnson, a hip injury, did not practice this week. Makes him very, very questionable at best in this matchup against the Ravens. Secondary's been banged up, but has come back pretty strong this last few weeks. So, I mean, I like George Pickens, obviously, with no Deontay. Definitely a higher target ceiling as the diva, the squeaky wheel. Will he get greased, George Pickens? Probably. And especially if Deontay's out, I still am a little wary of that dud last week that I'm not sprinting full force into George Pickens, as I often have so far this year, and he has not really disappointed me until last week. Treylon Burks not practicing on Thursday. I wouldn't expect to see him out there. That was a brutal hit, tough concussion. Insane that he held on to that touchdown, by the way. But I would not be trusting Burks. Jacoby Myers is also not practicing. He did play through the shoulder injury, but wasn't all that great through it. 22 yards on 5 targets. Woo. So I don't really want to play Myers anyways. And it seems like he might be out, which would just raise the ceiling of Hunter Henry. We'll talk about a little bit later. And when you're looking at your Texans, then Cardinals, then we'll move forward with tight ends and hit higher, lower Hail Mary so we can get to all those questions, Wolfpack. Nico Collins and Brandon Cooks are not expected to play. So Davis Mills returning to the lineup would have been good news for both of them. And I was going to say great news, but really it's just a matter that it's not Kyle Allen. So that's great news. It's not him. It's not great news for anybody. That's Davis Mills. He's still pretty trash, but certainly better trash than the trash we had under center before. I don't know how is it Chris Moore now? Maybe. He did have 4 for 41 and a touchdown last time both these guys were out on Thursday Night Football. We saw Philip Dorsett go for 3 for 69. I mean, Davis Mills threw for like 200 yards. I think even underneath it, 22 pass attempts. It was pretty abysmal. So I don't know that you have to try to find who is going to be. I guess a really good Dallas defense. The answer is likely nobody. But again, desperation week. I don't hate Chris Moore 1% rostered as a stab. I feel like he's the type of guy that when he gets used, he actually ends up surprising. Like Greg Dortch for the Cardinals here. He practiced in full, whereas Rondale Moore did not practice. It does not seem like we'll see Rondale Moore this week. And yes, Hopkins likely out there, although he had an illness himself, but did not practice. I expect he's going to be out there. Marquise Brown is back in the lineup, but even still, Greg Dortch last game saw 9 catches, 100 yards after not even playing the first quarter. He's good. I really like Greg Dortch. Every time he plays, he performs. And in particular, having that slot role on lock, we've seen Kyler peppering it. This is a dink and dunk offense. The air raid, explosive air raid. Doesn't do anything but throw 5-yard slants, but Greg Dortch, really reliable, really good at those, and actually outperformed both Hopkins and Marquise Brown the last time out. He's out there all but now. He's 98% available right now. I think Greg Dortch is a great bye-week fill-in if you need one. I'm going to be stashing because I still want to decide, am I going to go Josh Palmer and Mike Williams, or do I want to flip it to Greg Dortch? I think he's a great play, though. If you need a wide receiver stream, check him out. Last receiver note is Kadarius Toney practicing on Thursday. I don't know. I guess he's still so damn explosive, and it is the Chiefs that if he's healthy, if he's right, he's probably the best wide receiver option. Again, I know not Travis Kelce, tight end. Kadarius Toney is better than Juju Smith-Schuster when he's healthy. The issue is when he's healthy is not very often. But at this time of the year, we're looking for upside on our benches. We're looking for defenses to stash. We're looking for handcuffs, and we're looking for talent that could prevail. And Toney, if nothing else, does have talent in a great offense. Maybe he comes back and explodes like we all thought he was before the hamstring injury happened. More likely than not, he'll probably aggravate. But I think he belongs on benches, honestly. And maybe I'm just a sucker. We will see. Why am I the way I am, and why is he the way he is? Tight end news. Hayden Hurst not practicing on Thursday, unlikely to play. I don't think he's a backup worth stashing in his stead. And David Njoku, limited in practice. Seems like he'll be returning. That is important because he's been a top 8 tight end option. Honestly, more often top 6 tight end option when he is out there. Potential shootout between those two teams, the Bengals and the Browns. I'd be starting David Njoku as long as he's out there, folks. And then a notable D injuries. The only one I wrote down as of right now is TJ Watt not practicing. I only note this because of how damn bad the Steelers have been when TJ Watt is not on the field. Wolfpack, that wraps up our news and notes for week 14 right now. I did catch wind, thanks to David Campanelli, that Saquon Barkley was, I think, limited in practice today due to a neck injury popping up. That kind of came up right as we were going live. So he was on the injury. Don't expect it to affect his ability, according to Jordan Rannon. So just something to note. Maybe Matt Breida, worth stashing as a backup just to be safe. But I don't think this is going to impact anything. My guess is Saquon is good to go as normal. But it is a reminder, Breida is a handcuff worth rostering if you have Saquon, or really just in general, you have the bench space. I do prefer stashing Dontrell Hilliard, though, as we've talked about a lot. But as a reminder, gets Houston and the Chargers in weeks 15 and 16 should something happen to Derrick Henry. Those are 2 top 4 matchups. Hilliard is a beast when he gets used. If we're talking handcuffs out of nowhere. Just wanted to bring up Dontrell Hilliard. Can't talk about that guy enough. Alrighty, Wolfpack. Let's continue forward. We got about 20 of you here. Really cool. Awesome. Good to see you. Thumbs up button would be so appreciated if you enjoy the content so far. Help us get out to more people. Shares, likes, retweets, all that good stuff. Because again, like I talked about, I feel like we usually have like 40, 50 of you here on these Thursday shows. So it would be so cool to get more of you here. If you're willing to share it out, help us grow, Wolfpack. Bring in some friends you're not facing would be awesome. Let's dive into my higher, lower, Hail Mary, as we do every single week. We got about 40 questions in the mailbag. Keep that bumped up. We'll have no problem mowing through that. I know my man Campanelli's checking for super chats. If you want to catch that line, or cut the line rather, make sure you get your answer before it starts and right on cue. We got my man Sebastian Alexander, always supporting the show, always so greatly appreciated. So before we get into higher, lower, Hail Mary, let's dive right into what you got for us, Sebastian. Start one running back, one receiver, and a flex. We got Juju, Mike Will, Cam Akers, and that's probably why you super chat to make sure you got this in for tonight. McKinnon, Chuba, Gallup, and Homer. All righty, we got a lot to unpack, Alex. Let's see. Sebastian, rather. So for the running back, I'm going to go Akers. I think he's significantly above the other options. The only one that would compare to him would be Travis Homer if he's the guy. We're going to talk about him in a little bit. That backfield's a complete and utter disaster right now. Who knows who's healthy at this point? It seems like Homer and Tony Jones are the last men standing, and even Tony Jones is a little banged up right now. I think Homer genuinely has like 15 to 20 carry upside. Plus, we know he's a good receiver, good pass protector. The team already loves him in that role. So I do really like Homer. But we have to wait that one out. Like, is Gallman activated? Darwin Thompson, PTSD, is lingering around right now too. So to me, Akers is the far and away the best play here. Doesn't mean he's a lock. Doesn't mean he's a sure thing by any stretch of the imagination here. But after a 2-touchdown day, a running back 4 performance, 72% of snaps, as long as the game stays close and competitive, which I do think it does, it really could get out of hand early. Maybe Adams goes like 3 touchdowns in quarter 1 and it's done. Then we'd be screwed, and then it'd be the Kyron Williams show. But of these options, I really feel like Akers is definitely your best bet, your highest ceiling, a pretty good floor too. Even though the efficiency numbers didn't look amazing last week, I was impressed with some of the cuts he was making given that Achilles injury. So of those options for running back, I'm going Akers. And then I think I'm going the 2 receivers, Juju and Mike Will. At least Juju, the lock for the receiver. Mike Will, as long as you got the risks, the stomach for that risk, I think he's in a good spot, a shootout style game. But that also gives us the option to pivot to Homer. If Homer's the running back 1, there's few men around him. I mean, we've seen the wheels get turned over to a random Seahawk back right around this time of the year. It's like at times an endless loop. Carlos Hyde, Thomas Rawls, and they just go nuts and they help you out. So you could ride that wave if Homer's in line to start. We can always figure that. I know, Sebastian, I'll probably see you on Sunday for our show, so we can always figure that out then as well. But I'd get Akers in there tonight. I mean, given the rest of this list, he's by far the favorite running back at this point with the information we have. I think Juju's the lock at the other receiver spot, and then we'll come down to Mike Will versus Homer for that final flex. Thank you so much for your support, Sebastian. It is so greatly appreciated. I know it's not your first time tossing us a few bucks. It truly goes such a long way and is so appreciated, Wolfpack. So if you want to cut the line, please do consider doing that for us as well. But again, a free way with 25 of you out there. That thumbs up button, those shares, those likes, all that good stuff. It truly does help us, Wolfpack. I wouldn't keep begging for it if it didn't. And if you're new out there, you haven't been here before, please do consider subscribing to the show as we climb our way to 3K. Let's dive into my higher, lower Hail Mary so you can find out who I am sitting, starting, and streaming in Week 14 at the quarterback position. I'll start with who I'm higher on, Geno Smith. My top 8 quarterbacks this week, I have about 2 spots above the ECR. That's not overly bold. Most of the people are ranking him as a starter, but I'm getting a lot of questions like Geno versus, for example, Dak, who I'm a little bit lower on. So we'll do higher, lower at the same time. Geno Smith has not had below 19 fantasy points in 5 straight weeks, but a top 11 guy in all but one of those. And he had 19 and was number 13. That was just a high-scoring week for him. The floor is great. And we saw last week, 24 points. I mean, the DK Millie Maker winner with 367 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's having a ridiculous year. Should be, honestly, the comeback player of the year, revitalizing his career here in Seattle, showing Russell Wilson maybe was a system guy. It sounds crazy, and I know that I truly don't believe that. But honestly, maybe Pete Carroll's just a genius. I think he deserves Coach of the Year honors. I think Geno Smith, he has been an absolute revelation and has not slowed down. In fact, all he's done is get better and better. When you have 2 elite weapons like DK and Lockett and you don't overthink it, you force feed the ball to him, good things happen, and great things have happened all year for Geno. I'm locking him in. Top 8 option. Put him above Dak Prescott. Surprisingly, Houston's given up the 3rd fewest points to quarterbacks. They're not a good defense. They're not a good pass defense. The reason why is because you can steamroll them on the ground and just get in, get out, and see you on to next week. That's what's going to happen here. The Cowboys, when they want, they have the option to just bleed clock and run. They're going to do it, and there's no better team. There's truly no bigger run funnel than the Texans. And again, not because they're a good pass defense, because they are that atrocious against the run. 24th in pass attempts right now, Dallas is. I wouldn't expect more than 25 throws this game. I think we're going to get 45 plus carries between Zeke and Tony Pollard, and they're going to just run it down the absolute throat. Could we still get a couple touchdowns from Dak? Of course, we probably will. I'm thinking we're going to get like a 150 and 2 touchdown day, though. So that's why I'll go for a higher ceiling like Geno. That's why maybe I attack like Cousins or Jared Goff, honestly, ahead of Dak, because we got a shootout style game, higher ceiling there. Nice floor to Dak, but I just think the ceiling is so capped in this tough matchup. So a little bit lower on him this week. As always, Daniel Jones, too. He's consistently ranked as a fringe QB1, and he's only been top 14 in 4 of 12 games this year. All those games required 50-plus rush yards. And yes, the Eagles, I don't know that he's going to get that done with against them. Now Jordan Davis is back. This was a couple of weeks ago when they were getting gashed on the ground. I'd feel a whole lot different. But with Jordan Davis, what a run stuffer there. Yet Sue also added, so it becomes even more of a burden to run against them. They're a scary defense. And I think Daniel Jones is going to crap himself, to be honest. I don't think this Giants team is going to show up. I think the Eagles are the real deal. They're going to smash the Giants. Unfortunately, David, I know you're waiting over there. Your team's going to get killed this week, and I would not be trusting Daniel Jones in my lineups. Instead, I would go to my Hail Mary. Hey, maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong on plenty of things, but my Hail Mary is much more palatable to me, and that's Tyler Huntley against Pittsburgh. 25% rostered right now. I'm rolling him out over Deshaun Watson this week. I have Justin Fields on bye. I have a bye week on the line. This isn't just like let's have fun and be cute and roll out Tyler Huntley because we can. I could win a bye this week. If I win, I get it. And I'm going to go with Tyler Huntley over Trevor Lawrence, over Deshaun Watson, like I said. I feel good about the guy. He is in a matchup against Pittsburgh, the 9th most points allowed to quarterbacks. And then you take out, if TJ Watt is out, they're going to have like top 3 numbers to quarterbacks. No pass rush to be seen. And yeah, Huntley, he was up or down. No doubt about that. Inconsistent when he was the starter last year, but he did ultimately average over 200 yards for the air and over 60. The big thing, 60 yards on the ground at nearly 10 rushing attempts per game. That's the crucial factor as we continue to emphasize. Like I said, I'm riding Justin Fields to a title right now. I know firsthand how valuable those carries are. I think we get about 8 to 10 carries at least for Tyler Huntley. It's a good matchup for him, again, the secondary as well. And the ceiling is just huge. Like, he never had below 14, 15 points. And I'm not sitting here saying I want 15 from my quarterback. The floor was okay, even though it is boom or bust. But he did have a 40-point day. The quarterback won when he faced the Packers. 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. And last week was on pace for over 20 fantasy points. Through 3 quarters, he was averaging over 6 points a quarter. I just like the guy. He looked really good all preseason. I think he took another step as a passer, high completion percentage. Like we saw this last week, makes good decisions. I like him. I really just like Tyler Huntley. I feel like I trust him more than Deshaun Watson at this point for my playoff bye hopes. Maybe I'll eat crow. Maybe I'll regret it. But if you need a streamer, I'd even have him, I like Mike White for the rest of the season, given that juicy playoff schedule, but he gets Buffalo this week. That could be ugly. He's going to probably need a Chuck to keep pace, but I'd go to Tyler Huntley if I had the option of one or the other. I do like Mike White as my other Hail Mary, though. If you missed out on Huntley, a great streamer, just given the playoff schedule, too. Down the road could be a great guy for you. But the Buffalo matchup could be a little tougher this week. Let's move on now to the running back position, Wolfpack. Feels gross to say it, but I'm higher on Najee Harris this week. I got him plus 3 spots above the ECR against Baltimore. Running back 16. It's tough because he doesn't look all that great. And so it's hard to be higher on people that just, I don't love his players. But he has been top 10 in expected fantasy points given the volume. He's on the field for around 70% or more of the snaps almost every week. Last week was right at 69%. Ooh, nice. So that was like a little bit lower actually than we're expecting. Most weeks we knew Jalen Warren's working him for more of the 3rd down, and that's capped the ceiling quite considerably considering what he did last year as a receiver. He's still very capable in that. But even with these little bit of workload concerns, like I said, top 10 expected fantasy points, and he's been 12, 10, 9, 10, 26, 10, 10. Is he blowing the doors off for anybody? No. But is he losing you any weeks? also know he's a nice, steady floor. He did have that 126-point day just a couple weeks ago. And yeah, Baltimore, not the best of matchups, but the fact that he has not dipped below 9 points in 7 straight games, he's been 10 plus in 6 of those 7 games, and just is going to be a near every down back with definite scoring potential every single week. It's just unsexy, but he's going to get it done for you. I have him ranked ahead of a lot of guys that most experts have him below. Another guy I'm really high on this week compared to the experts are Zonovan Knight, my running back 20 plus 4 ECR. I'm going to keep going to this well until it dries up. And honestly, I don't think it's gonna. This is the toughest matchup he's got the rest of the year, though, against Buffalo. So if there's ever a week to sit him and just see, does he really get it done again? This would be it. Next 3 weeks are all top 10 matchups for him in your fantasy playoffs. Juicy, juicy, juicy. But I can actually even feel pretty decent about him against Buffalo. Why? He's had at least 17 touches and 100 plus yards in back-to-back weeks. Played 92% of the snaps inside the 10. They're going to need to get points, and he is their go-to guy in the goal line. He also is a quality receiver. He saw 40% of the 2-minute offense, so it's not like he's completely and utterly phased out in passing situations. He had 5 catches last week on his 5 targets, 30 yards on it, in addition to 90 yards on the ground on his 15 carries. And yes, Michael Carter likely back. That is a concern, no doubt about it. But the Athletic speculating that Bam has earned the full-time role, even when Michael Carter returns, according to the report this week. So yes, Michael Carter could be back. The good news is we know James Robinson not in this picture at all. 11% of the snaps last week, even with Carter inactive. And my guess, and the reason why I'm higher on Zonovan Knight is even when Carter returns, it becomes more of a nuisance to Ty Johnson, the third down back right now, pushing Mike Carter back into his kind of third down, more natural role for him here. So I'm a big fan of Mike Carter in that third down role. I'm not playing Mike Carter, but that's where I see him getting used. That's why I like Zonovan Knight to still see 12 to 15 carries, probably another 4 to 5 targets this week. Volume, even in a tougher matchup against the Bills. They're not nearly as good as they have been in the past. So I'm going back to the well with Zonovan Knight where I have him, folks. We'll see how it goes for me. Who am I lower on at running back? Latavius Murray. Yes, the matchup's good against Kansas City, but guess what? He's my running back 28, 7 spots below ECR. Give me Zonovan. Give me Cam Akers. Give me some of those guys ahead of him. It's a middle of the pack matchup. 14th most points allowed to backs. The Chiefs are. The big thing is you can game scripted out of here early and often, and I think that's going to happen to Latavius Murray. He's been outside the top, since taking over from Melvin Gordon, outside your top 30 running backs in half PPR points in 3 of his last 4 weeks. There's nobody else. He's been seeing 17, 18 carries a week and still just crapping himself all over the field. He's not good. And one of the least efficient backs in the last 3 years this past season. He was only getting there on volume, and even now he's seeing the volume. He's still not that great. Mike Boone came off the IR last week. We could see his role continue to get elevated, especially if they get down early. I think that's more of a Mike Boone script. I'm not trusting Latavius Murray, again, top 21 rating running back in the experts ratings. No way. A fringe top 30 guy for me, which is where he's finished again in 75% of his last games. Now, we mentioned my Hail Mary already of the week. Somebody I probably would have above Murray if and when we get some confirmation on his role, but that's Travis Homer. 7% rostered right now. I think he could be that sneaky, crazy, blow up for a week and carry you into the playoffs type of guy. It happens every year. He reminds me a lot of Dion Lewis, who was one of those guys just about 7-8 years ago. Time is an endless loop. Someone like this always emerges. I wouldn't be shocked if Homer's that next one up. First of all, he gets the Panthers this week. 9th most points allowed to running backs. Very solid spot. Top 10 matchup. Check. Everybody else is hurt. DJ Dallas not practicing today. Ken Walker, the bigger issue, of course, not practicing as well. Tony Jones banged up himself. It could be strictly Travis Homer right now. He's not built like a true featured back. More of a third down scat back style guy, great pass protector. The team loves him. Pete Carroll raves about Homer whenever he gets the chance. And he's already said, if he's our running back 1, we have no issue force feeding this guy. You could be looking at a 15 to 20 touch guy in a top 10 matchup. And I actually really like the player. I mean, just look no further than 2 weeks ago when he was actually active. So he wasn't active last week. That's why we didn't see any fantasy stats racked up despite all the injuries. But just 2 weeks ago, 12 fantasy points on only 4 touches, had 45 receiving yards. Nice, ripped up down the field, touchdown reception. I'm a big fan of Travis Homer as a player. And I think if he gets the work, he could really make a meaningful difference in week 14 here. At least stash him so your opponent doesn't play him. Moving on to the wide receiver position. I am higher on Chris Godwin. Everybody's terrified. That San Fran matchup, and it is a great defense, don't get me wrong. You'd be shocked to know that they're giving up top 10 points to fantasy wide receivers right now, in particular, really struggling against the slot. Greg Dortch, just a couple weeks ago, had 9 catches for 103. Greg Dortch. Just a week or two before that, Juju had 21.9 fantasy points. We saw Tyreek Hill moving all over the place. And Tyreek Hill, we get it. He's going to burn everybody. But dink and dunk all down the field with 14 catches for the guy, that's Godwin's type of game. That's where San Fran has struggled the most. The quick twitch athletes, the slot type receivers. I think Godwin, my wide receiver 14 of the week, 4 spots above the ECR, not benching him because of this quote-unquote tough San Fran defense. They are not too scary against wide receivers, in particular, those of the mold of Chris Godwin. Marquise Brown, I'm also firing up where I have him. Against New England, seems scary, right? But no, they're actually middle of the pack against wide receivers. They've gotten burned deep a handful of times. They struggle with speed a handful of times too. I have him 3 spots above the ECR, wide receiver 20 for the week. He actually out-targeted D-Hop, and D-Hop himself has an illness right now heading into the game. We know Rondale Moore, unlikely to play, and before, yes, I get D-Hop was not on the team there, but before going down, we saw 10-plus points in every game for Marquise Brown. He had a stretch where he was a top 10 receiver for 3 straight weeks. Was looking like an absolute monster. I've just always really liked the player, and I think he's in a great role here, particularly if Hopkins is coming back slow. We'll find out. In terms of lower for wide receiver, Deebo Samuel on the other end of that Tampa Bay game, I'm not in love with. In his last 5 games, he's had single-digit fantasy points in 4 of those 5. He had 1 19-point blow-up on Monday Night Football. But other than that, like, he's been getting okay volume, 7, 6, 9, 7, and 10 targets, just not doing much with it. And he's got Purdy. I don't want to put my fantasy fortunes on Purdy. So he's my wide receiver 25. Like, could he be in lineup? Sure. But in 2 receiver leagues or so, is he a must start? No. Not my opinion. Despite as much as I love the player, love the talent, I'm not forcing Deebo Samuel into my lineups. And then Jerry Jeudy. Surprised to see him ranked as a top 30 wide receiver. He's my wide receiver 35 right now, and I'm about 7 spots below the ECR on him. Why? Like, I get why he's ranked high, okay? No Sutton, probably the alpha. Chasing points all game against the Kansas City Chiefs. It's a nice matchup, too. Top 7 matchup for wide receivers against this Chiefs defense. It all makes sense except Russell Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett. What more do you have to say? Have we not seen enough of this absolute disaster? Is there anything more painful than cutting to a Broncos game and having to root for the most disgusting offense, the worst offense by points, yards, everything in the league? It makes no sense why they're so bad, but they are. And if you haven't yet had to gouge your eyes out and root for this offense, don't make this the week to do it. They are fucking awful. Don't. Just don't. And moving to Hail Mary, DJ Chark against Minnesota, a fringe top 30 guy for me, coming off a 98-yard, 5-catch, 6-target day. Back-to-back 6-target games. I like DJ Chark. He's played now 5 full weeks, and he's been top 20 finisher in 2 of those 5 weeks, and he's been pretty solid in the other ones too. Just a nice, solid player. The week before last week had a touchdown as well, and this is going to be a shootout. I love this matchup. Minnesota versus the Lions. I want as many pieces of this as I can for DFS, and if I need fillers in my fantasy lineups, I really want to go to this game as well. So I'm a big fan of DJ Chark as a streamer, only 30% rostered. But if he's gone, a few names you could also look for. Demarcus Robinson against Pittsburgh. I like Huntley. I like stacking him up with Demarcus Robinson, who saw 8 targets, all from Travis Huntley. In 3 quarters, he locked in on Andrews. He locked in on Robinson as his go-to guys. He hauled in 7 Demarcus Robinson for 41 yards. It's risky, but just 2 weeks ago, the guy had 9 catches for 128 yards and was the wide receiver 8. Got a nice soft schedule down the stretch here. He's got 9 or 8 targets to Demarcus Robinson in 3 of his last 5. You've seen John Harbaugh rave about this guy multiple times. So he's a guy, as well as Chris Moore, only 1%. We just talked about Davis Mills coming back. Last time we saw Collins and Brandon Cooks out of the lineup. Moore had 4 for 41 and a touchdown. Just one of those guys that seems to perform every time he does get a spot. But I like even more than that, Greg Dortch. 2% rostered. Last time out, 9 catches, over 100 yards. He's just a baller. I feel as confident as anybody in Greg Dortch, which is just nuts that that's coming out of my mouth. But when Rondale Moore is out, all he does is perform. Look at his early games of the year. Was a top 20 wide receiver in 2 of those 3 games. Last time out, top 20 receiver. When he's got a role, he performs. We know Kyler Murray loves him, so I'm a big fan of it. Only 2% rostered. At least block your opponents from using him against them during this bye week hell. Let's wrap up my higher, lower Hail Mary Wolfpack with tight ends, and I'll mow through these as fast as I can, and then on to all of your questions to get ready for Thursday night football, baby. Even if it's ugly, it's still football. Tight ends, Gerald Everett, 2 spots above the ECR. My tight end 6 against Miami. That's a top 3 matchup for tight ends. Been all year. A great spot. He's fresh off a 5-catch, 80-yard day. Parham is activated. His window's activated, but he's not expected back for at least a week or two, which keeps him, Everett, a nice touchdown threat, even with Mike Willie back. At 11 points last time out. He's getting, I have him above George Kittle, who's ranked a few spots higher in the ECR. Give me Everett. Steadier volume, better overall offense, clearly a better quarterback at this point. I love Everett. No reason to ask questions about him. He's in my lineups. Lower on, Evan Ingram, ranked as a shoo-in top 10 tight end. What? Yes, he had a good week last week, but let's not forget the 3 weeks before that. 1, 3, and 1 fantasy points. It's the nature of the tight ends. It's a boomer bust position, and I get Ingram runs as many routes as any tight end in the game. It seems to me like this offense has come down to is it going to be Zay Jones? Is it going to be Evan Ingram? We know it's going to be Christian Kirk most weeks, and then one of those other 2 guys tends to have a big day. I think it's Zay Jones this week if it's anybody else, given that they're number 2, the Titans in surrendering points to the wide receiver position. They're a pretty good matchup for tight ends too, so it's not like a horrendous spot for Evan Ingram. He's my tight end 13. He's a fringe starter guy for me, but I don't love him. In fact, I'd rather have a less than 50% rostered guy, my Hail Mary of the week, Hunter Henry against Arizona. He's out there in more than half of leagues right now, and this is the nuts matchup for tight ends. I absolutely love anybody going against Arizona, and I like Hunter Henry. Back-to-back 5-target days. Didn't turn into much last week. The week before, though, had just barely missed a 2-touchdown day. Did have 13 points and finishes a top 5 tight end just 2 weeks ago, though, and now he gets the best matchup possible. Jacoby's banged up, so, 5 targets. We might see 8, 10 targets. He might be the number 1 pass catcher in this offense this coming week, besides, of course, Ramondre Stevenson. He has legitimately Hunter Henry top 3 tight end upside in his range of outcomes this week. I'm a big fan of Hunter Henry. Now, if you need to go deeper, though, for your tight end, let's say, Hunter Henry's been owned since Vietnam in my league. Well, let's look at Chigoziem Okonkwo against Jacksonville. 1% rostered here, so he's going to be in your league. And 30-plus yards in 5 straight games, including a career high, this rookie, 68 yards. Very explosive, long, lanky, kind of like a big wide receiver playing the tight end position type of athlete. He, according to PFF, has been graded out across these last 5 weeks. Like I said, 30-plus more yards in 5 straight weeks. How has he looked according to PFF? 85.2 receiving grade. That's the number 2 tight end right now. 145 yards after the catch. 103 of those yards coming after contact. Both of those are number 2 in the league. He has averaged 3.54 yards per route run and 22.3 yards per reception. Those are number 1 by a mile. Big play threat on an offense right now with no Treylon Burks. They're going to need a big play threat. I could see him stepping in to be that clear-cut number 1 guy. And Adam Koffler, guy I really like, a guy I interact with a lot on Twitter, solid guy to go back and forth with. Always recommend checking him out. He has a great thread on Okonkwo, and he talked a lot about how after Burks left the game, so before Burks left, Okonkwo played 38% of the snaps, had a route participation of 22. After Burks left, Okonkwo played 66% of the snaps, had a nearly 67% route share. But those numbers are a little bit deflated because in the fourth quarter, they rested all the guys, all their starters, given the fact that they were blown out. So when the starters were in, Okonkwo was an 87% snap player, ran a route on nearly 80% of the routes. That's insane opportunity for a crazy, as we just said, all those metrics, explosive athlete, really solid pass catcher. So if they need an explosive threat, which I think they do, I really, really like this kid. So if you're desperate for a tight end, why not get a nice, exciting freak athlete at the position and see what he does? Okonkwo, my Hail Mary of the week, folks. All righty, Wolfpack. That wraps up my higher, lower Hail Mary. We got about 30 here, a light crowd for our Thursday. I guess it's maybe an unappealing game, whatever it might be. Maybe you missed the truth, just like me. Who knows? But we do have some questions here. We got a mailbag. I'm happy to mow through all of it. I appreciate all of you that are here. And if you do want to help us grow and maybe get out to some more people as we answer these questions, please consider hitting that thumbs up button. Please consider tossing a super chat to cut the line and get your answer right away and just support your boys, or check out the call-in line as our boy, as always, does. Mr. Campanelli, how are we, brother?
Hey, Wolf, how you doing tonight?
Very good, very good.
So I'm throwing the question to you that I kind of texted to you right before the show.
All right, let's hear it.
Heineke's on bye. Do you drop him? I'm solidified the playoffs and pick up Ridder and see if I Ridder in my super flex league instead of Heineke the rest of the season? What do you think?
I think you do it. I mean, what has Heineke done? Yes, and this is tough because he's coming off his best game. I think he had just like 18 to 20 fantasy points his last time out. But you look at his game logs before that. I mean, he was having a hard time cracking 12, 15 points for a while. One of those classic, like, teammates love him, rallies the troops, but fantasy-wise just doesn't really do much for you. Why not? Like, Ridder's not going to be any worse, and if he is, so what if he is at that point? It's not like you're costing yourself this monster super flex that's consistent and steady, getting it done for you. You can instead sub in a potential guy, like I said, 4.52 speed, 95th percentile burst score as well, 97th on that 4.52 40 for a quarterback. It's not going to be quite Justin Fields level, but that's what gets it done. That's who I'm relying on. So if somebody's going to have a 20-plus point, rest of season outlook, I think Ridder has a much better shot at hitting that ceiling, given the rushing alone. Plus, you got Drake London, a solid weapon. Maybe Kyle Pitts comes off that IR at some point. And even if nothing else, he's got that Arizona juicy matchup in your championship. Of course, you got to get there. But the 2 weeks leading into it, both top 15 matchups as well for him. Why not? Pull the trigger. You got some athleticism. You got some unsexy. I mean, sexy, like, who knows what this is, the sex appeal of the unknown. We know what Heineke is, and it's not anything special for fantasy. I say pull the trigger and get Desmond Ridder over him.
No, I appreciate that, Wolf. And then a quick question for tonight. In a full PPR, would you start Akers over Zeke, Connor, or Pierce?
No, he's right on the fringe. Like the definitely not Zeke against Houston. Zeke looks good right now. I mean, it's weird to say it, but I think the thing that sucks for Zeke is like Pollard is so freaking good that like you're always going to pale in comparison. But Zeke himself is looking really solid. Like this plotter. He's not a plotter. He's a plotter in comparison to Tony Pollard, as are like 80% of the backs in the league right now. So I think Zeke looks actually really solid. And against Houston, we're talking 2 touchdown, 100-yard upside. No way. He's my favorite of those options. Connor, since he came back healthy, has been rock solid too. Getting back into the end zone plenty. You can't bench him at this point. So, Pierce has been a bit up or down. That's the risk here. Pierce versus Akers is worth considering. I think he's coming off a good game. He's been solid. Davis Mills is back, which gives this offense a little bit more upside at least. Dallas is a tough matchup, though. I mean, that you could definitely consider that one. That one is really close for me. I'd probably go Pierce, gun to my head, but if you make that switch, I wouldn't be upset with you. So I think it's definitely justifiable.
So then the caveat comes, do we go back to body pillow loving Jeff Wilson one more time? Man,
you're giving some good options because he gets the Chargers, and that's the reason why you could really consider going back to the body pillow. So if you have Jeff Wilson lingering there too, I probably don't put Akers in tonight. Okay. I apologize in advance if he gets another 2-touchdown day. That's
going to happen. I'd rather it happen on my bench than somebody else's starting lineup at this point.
Exactly. So. It's not against you. And sure, it could hurt, but it could also be like, I mean, the rest of the year has been 3 to 4 points for Akers. Like, I do feel pretty good about him. I know we'll get some more sit starts and we'll kind of get a better measuring bar, but I have him below every single name you just listed. So when that comes into play, I don't want to get antsy and just throw someone in to have somebody in on Thursday. Yeah. I think there's a little bit of a risk. Like, as I was talking and previewing the game, I was like, what if Adams has 3 touchdowns in quarter 1? They get game flowed out. And now Kyron Williams is just catching dump offs the rest of the day. That's a very real possibility. There's a very low floor here with a pretty good ceiling, but I feel like everybody else you mentioned has the same ceiling with better floors, is how I look at it.
No, I appreciate it, Wolf. Thank you. And you have another super chat in here, Jose Laredo.
Awesome. We'll pull up Jose next. Thank you so much. As always, Campanelli, getting those call-ins, coming to the show. You're always the best, my man.
Have a good night, Wolf.
You as well. Cheers. All right. And Jose Laredo coming in hot with that super chat. Thank you so much for your support of the show. Jose, drop 1. Burks, Pickens, Juju for Jamal. How is Jamal Williams out there in your league? You already have Olave, Adams, and St. Brown. So I guess I got to go Burks here. I mean, he's hurt this week. Probably not going to play. I think Burks or Pickens are the 2 options you can consider. And I'd probably go Burks first, given that he's hurt, given you're not going to see anything this week. Let's say Pickens lays another egg this week. Well, then you drop him and you get Burks back onto the lineup. But yeah, I would definitely drop Burks to get Jamal Williams. He should not be out there in lineups. It's definitely worth the move, in my opinion. PPR, it's good to have all these weapons, but look at who you have again. Adams, St. Brown, Olave. I mean, none of those guys are probably going to get into your lineup. So I lean, you could really cut any of them, but I think Burks is the lowest of those options for me. So yeah, I would definitely stash Jamal Williams ahead of him. Even if you're not playing him, you don't want to be the guy on the end of 3-touchdown Jamal Williams day, because that can happen at any given point, clearly. So yeah, I think that's definitely the play here. David Campanelli, first to comment tonight. Let's go. Good to see you, brother. Thank you for your comments, like, subscribe, everybody. And indeed, if you're here with us, you're getting those questions answered, please do consider tossing us that thumbs up. If you're new to the show, please consider subscribing as we push and climb to that 3K. So pumped to almost be there. Kristen Mann, as always, tuning in. Great to see you. As always, good evening to you as well. 2 running backs, 1 receiver, and a flex. Let's get this lineup ready, Kristen. Sitting 2 of Christian Kirk, Mike Evans, Jamal Williams, James Conner, Gus Edwards, Michael Carter. To me, it's clearly you're sitting those last 2. Edwards, how could you trust him after last week? Michael Carter, I think, is taking the back seat to Zonovan Knight. And I really like all 4 of the other options. Like, they're all in other, like, tiers above the other 2. So at first I was like, oh shit, it's going to be a tough one. Once you got to those last 2, very, very clear to me. Those are the guys you bench, those last 2 options there. Pick 1 running back, Akers, Cook, Zonovan, or Tony Jones. Good question, Titan CW. Excuse my burp. To me, this comes down to Akers or Zonovan. And I lean Zonovan. It's just getting it done 2 weeks in a row. Yes, Akers got it done last week, but it has been ugly all year. It's tough, though, because it is a good matchup. He's got the matchup compared to Zonovan. Something about Zonovan just feels like I'm the guy, and I'm going to get it done for you, for the Jets. Like, I just like that kid. Akers are going to be relying on the touchdowns, and they could be there against the bad Raiders team, or Baker Mayfield could just get shut out if he's starting. So, yeah, I'm going to go Zonovan Knight there, Titan. Made playoffs in 4-4. Hell yeah, Bulldog. Love to hear it. You're here at every show, so it's just so nice when like somebody that's as steady as you, a great loyal fan, and then they have the results too. Because one thing to be a loyal fan, but then if you don't make the playoffs, then what does it fucking matter? It's great to have our interactions, and it's good to see you and everything. Yeah, sure. But we're here for the results too. I want to build the relationships, but I also want to win you guys titles. That's why you're here. That's why I'm here. We know the deal. So fuck yeah. Let's go get some titles, baby. Love to see it, Bulldog. What's up, Wolf? Should I start Foster Moreau or Dulcich? Ooh, good one. Not usually a Dulcich guy, but hey, 85 yards last week. If they're going to need a throw, Cortland Sutton's going to be out. I go Greg. Fuck. Don't like it. But I'm going Greg. Myers or Singletary? Honestly, Giuseppe, Myers might be out. Answers the question for you. And I probably go Singletary anyways. What's up, Brunel? Good to see you. I know you were at the last show. I don't know if you're here every single time. I just missed it, or I feel like you're pretty new, but it's good to see you repeat. Good to see you back. Who should I start at flex? Michael Gallup, James Cook, Zonovan Knight. I'm leaning Zonovan. I'm a big Zonovan fan, as the earlier answers said. I'm here. I'm really intrigued by James Cook. Here's the one thing I'll say about Cook. He's probably somebody to talk about here. I'm sure there's a lot of questions in there about James. So let's talk about James. He got in because Singletary dropped the ball. Singletary otherwise has been around 70, 80% snaps in tight games. And I think this Jets game is going to be a tight one. But what if, the question is, did James Cook do enough to be like, I am that pass catching back now? 6 catches on 6 targets, over 50 yards. I think he did. Did the coaching staff think he did? Because what if it was just that one drop and then it's like, okay, we're going to go back to our usual thing? They might. But it was pretty clear how much better this offense was. There's a little bit of a risk with the workload for Cook, and there is, I guess, with Zonovan, with Mike Carter coming back too. But I feel a little bit safer about Zonovan, even though I really did love what I saw out of James Cook. I have him within 4 spots of each other. Cook is definitely a viable play this week, but I guess it's more so I really like Zonovan less than I don't dislike Cook. I just like Zonovan more. I feel safer for him to get 15 to 20 touches, whereas if James Cook just disappeared in the background this week and it was like a Singletary, it was 1 week, they were trying to send a message and they did, and now, James Cook is in the background, that would really suck. I don't think that's the case, but I'd like to take a week and see it. Let me see 2 weeks in a row. I've seen 2 weeks in a row from Zonovan. Let me see 2 weeks in a row from Cook, and then I'll trust him. That's how I feel. Here comes the RS team. Crush the thumbs up for weeks 14 in RSJ. Hell yeah, Jeff Lee. Thank you so much for that hype. Please do crush that thumbs up button for us. Help us continue to climb. Let's go, Blaze. Let's go. Daniel, what's going on? Mike White versus Buff. Watson versus Cincy. or Tanny versus Jax for my guy Daniel DeWong. I think I'm going to go Watson here. It comes down to White or Watson for me. Because I think with Jacksonville and Tanny, I think we just get Derrick Henry going for like 30. That's my read on that game. So, that's tough. But I think I go Watson. You have the game to shake the rust off. You know they're going to need points against Cincy. Maybe this is, but Cincy, they limited Mahomes last week. I don't think they've given up a single touch. They've given up like one touchdown in the second half all year. That's tough. Mike White will need to chase. They're averaging the most passing yards and most pass attempts in the last 2 years and starts without Zach Wilson, whether it's Flacco, whether it's White. Fuck it. Go Mike White. That's tough, though. Watson just looked bad. Mike White's at least looked good. I go White. I'm gonna adjust the rankings the more I talk about it. Fryer, that's why I love this show. You guys help me figure out my rankings, for better or for worse. Freiermuth or Everett for our guy Giuseppe. You gotta go Fry. I don't know. Do you gotta go Fry? My gut is just you gotta go Fry. But concerning stat that I heard on Fry, he ended up with good counting stats last week. He only played 55% of the snaps though. Gentry was in for more. He had that one big play. If you took that out, and I hate doing that. Take that one big play out, and he would have been nothing. Of course, you can do that with everybody. That snap share was concerning, though. Because we've gotten to 9, 7, 7, 12, targets a hog. That just hasn't been there lately. I'm going to go Everett. I'm changing the rankings. You guys are helping me out here. Opportunity to take first this week. And then I see Fry was, it's a Cabanelli coming. I have my rankings pulled up. I see it. I'm going off the gut, though. I feel better about Everett, so I'm going to fix these things. I want my rankings to reflect what I say. Let's get that first place, Blaze. Huh? Let's go. Mostert, Foreman, or White? I'm leaning Foreman there. Mostert, what happened with that Miami's backfield? I don't know. I wish there was a report. I've been searching the internet far and wide. Has anybody seen anything? Why Mostert suddenly took over the backfield? Because when Jeff Wilson arrived, it was him, and he was him. Him. H-I-M, all capitals. That was Jeff Wilson. Running back 6, running back 10, and then 12 points in the first half against Houston. Probably would have been a top 10 running back again. And then disappears into thin air. 1 carry. I don't know. I don't know why. Mostert took over. I wish I had an answer. Because if I knew Mostert was going to be the guy this week, then I'd say him. Because 70% of the carries, again, against the Chargers' pathetic defense, run defense at least, that would be amazing. But I don't know. It's such a confusing backfield that give me Foreman. Because he's at least predictable in the sense that if they're going to lose and they lose big, he's not going to do a thing. But if it's going to be a close enough game, Foreman will get his 20 carries. And it's the second most points allowed to backs the Seahawks. They're not a good run defense. They're not a good defense in general. Give me Foreman. Alex Falcon. Should I start Bam Knight, Dameon Pierce, or Jeff Wilson? I lean Dameon Pierce here. I don't have a clear read, though. It's 18, 20, and 22 for me. Very close in the ranks. I just go Dameon because the track record's a little longer, but it doesn't feel great. Giuseppe, White, Zay Jones, Matt Collins, Corey Davis, or Rondale Moore. It's tough because White had good final counting stats, but ended up playing less snaps than Lenny Fournette, less touches than Lenny Fournette. But I don't know that any of these, Rondale's not playing, and I don't think any of these other guys are I'd rather just go White. I'd rather go Rachaad White. Wrestling is the best sport I ever played for 16 years. Oh, make sure to let the truth know next time he's in there. Pin him, little wolf. Hell yeah. You were 76-pound weight class. That's wild. Dak or Carr? I'm going to go Dak. I know he's my lower, but when we're getting in the Carr range, we're going Dak. Evening Wolf. Good evening, Trey. Full PPR start 2. Juju, Boyd, Singletary, Judy, or White? I'm leaning Juju as my favorite here, and I'm probably going White. Again, timeshare, a little bit of it's against San Fran, though. Maybe Singletary, actually. Risk with Cook. Juju is really the only one I feel clearly good about. And Judy probably has the upside case, but I don't trust the Broncos at all. So I'm going to say Juju, Singletary. Akers or Singletary? I'm going to go Akers, Gio. I'm going to go Akers. Have to play either Perkins or Baker. Oh, God, Jeremiah. There's no Mike White. There's no, like, fuck, there's got to be something. That's not looking good at all, though. I mean, God. I'm trying to think of any quarterback that, like, could sneak in for a start this week. Huntley's gone, anything. P. Ryan or Mixon. I mean, Mixon's back, which it sounds like he's going to be Jared. It's Mixon. And it's a great spot against Cleveland. Welcome back, Jared, right? Have PPR pick 3. Jeff, Jamal, Pierce, White, Samaje. As long as Mixon's in, it's not Samaje. I think he's probably carved out a little bit of a role for himself, but not enough here. So I'm benching Samaje, and I'm probably going to bench White with that San Fran matchup. Very, very tough for running backs, Jeff. Excuse me, Wolfpack. Sit 1, PPR. Mostert, Corey Davis, or Zonovan. I'm going to sit Corey Davis. I like both those backs this week. Savakia. Nicola Lewin, looking for a flex play. By the way, is this Brian Lewin? Is this Brian Lewin's wife? I saw your comment at the end of the show last time, Go Crusaders. So I know it's something tied to Brian Lewin. I hope. Good to see you, whoever it is. And yes, hell yeah, let's fucking go, Crusaders. Let's take it down this weekend, right? All right, let's see what we got. We got Ayuk, Foreman, Akers, James Cook. Oh, good God, Lewin. Zay Jones, P. Ryan, Rashad White. I like Foreman here. I do. I feel pretty good about him. And as you mentioned, higher, lower, Hail Mary, I like Hollywood Brown as well. If it's all those guys or Hollywood, I go Hollywood. If it's like Hollywood in addition to those guys, Foreman's my favorite. And then Akers would be my next one up, though. So if you're like, I just want to get him in, Akers is the next one up there. A little bit nervous for Ayuk moving forward. Would have probably been the lock if Jimmy G was there, but I don't know what to do with Brock Purdy. So give me Foreman, then Akers, but Hollywood Brown overall. I do like Greg Dortch too, Jared. Yep, let's go. Foreman, Mostert, White, full PPR. I have to start one of them. I like Foreman. Full PPR White could be good most weeks, but 49ers do scare me. So give me Foreman. Going to start Cam Akers. Good luck, Justin. He could absolutely get you 10 to 12. 6th best matchup for running back, 72% of snaps last week. If the game flow stays good for him, he's going to get you 10 to 12. The big risk is like this Rams team sucks. They resting a bunch of defensive starters too. So if Adams just goes nuts for like 3 touchdowns early, then see ya, Akers. So there's a risk there. Craig Howley. Hey, would you pick up Abdullah, Chuba, or Jalen Warren off waivers? I don't like any of them, Craig. Honestly, here, I'm going to toss one out there for you. What about Tontrell Hilliard? Because to me, one, do you need him to start? I really sincerely hope not. If you need one to start, it's probably Jalen Warren. And if you just need one to stash and only those 3 are out there, it's probably Jalen Warren again. But I like Hilliard more than all 3. As a stash and maybe even a start too. Because something happens to, like, those guys' handcuffs are like meh, like mediocre backups. Jalen Warren would have been like top 3 for a while, but Benny Snell's now makes it in and Hilliard was going to be the guy if something happens to Henry. So that's where I go. So, yeah, I agree with Justin. Like, out of them, I go Warren, but I go Hilliard over both of them. Thank you, Sebastian, for your support. It's so greatly appreciated, brother. Dak over Carr again. Repeat. If I see it again, I'm going to put you in timeout. Carr over Dak. Agreed. I love Justin answering some questions. Good to see. Getting too cute to consider Foreman over Kirk. Yeah, that's too cute. It's a good matchup. It's the second most points allowed to wide receivers, Charlie, for Kirk. And he's been rock solid most of the year. So, yeah, that is too cute. Especially in a PPR. Come on, Charlie. 30 of you out there, Wolfpack, do hit that thumbs up button. We got about, 20 minutes till kickoff? Let's go. Stash, pick up Hilliard or Homer, PPR. So if it's a stash, it's Hilliard. If you need to start Homer, he's got definitely more upside for a 1-week rental this week. But as a stash, it's definitely Hilliard more upside. And if I'm dropping somebody, it's probably Mike White. You don't need the quarterback there. Yeah, Corey Davis never needs to be rostered. All righty, we got a defense question. It's Kansas City. And so the Raiders are a pretty good matchup, KDB. But one, you got Kansas City against the Broncos, even better matchup. And then 2, have you looked at Kansas City's playoff schedule? Houston next week. Denver in your championship. Pick up the Titans in week 16. Facing Houston, you got yourself the defensive blueprint for a championship, baby. Kicker, Wright or Maher? You got to go Maher. 2 good options, though. Yeah. Yep. All right. A kicker. Interesting. So I guess we're not. I'm going Maher, baby. You think Gabe Davis will get more involved? It's always a risk, but I'd go Gabe over either of those two because you always got the 30-point blow up, Craig, right? I'm going Gabe. Going Gabe the Babe. Foreman, Mostert, Rashad White. Oh, Blaze, I don't want to put you in timeout. You add a little bit to your comments each time, but that's the repeat of the questions. I see it again. You're going in. As I've said, I'm going Foreman. All righty. And as Cam just commented, still no starter news. 20 minutes till kickoff. We don't even know who's starting. So what kind of beer? Glad you asked, GRE. This is a Treehouse. It's called the Queen Julius. King Julius is one of my favorite top 3 beers of all time, but Queen Julius ain't too shabby either. Treehouse is the best brewery I've ever been to. I do like those beers as well, GRE, but I'm a bit snobby, and Treehouse has just changed my palate for beers at this point. I'm a snob. Craig, any opinions? Travis Homer, Gus? I'd go Homer there, assuming he's the starter. He's got a way better path to clear-cut volume. Of course, if Mixon was like ruled out, Samaj is a smash top 10 play. But for that list, it's Travis Homer. Sorry if I might have missed Mike Williams or Palmer. You didn't miss C. Woody. You're good. I go Mike, practicing in full. You know, they're not going to rush him back this time. They already made that mistake once. I guess there's a little bit more of a risk to him, though. That comes down with what do you need. Like, Palmer will probably still get you 7 to 8. Mike could get you 20. A little more boom or bust to the nature, but I go Mike in most cases. Oh, yeah, we already got through those for you, Jose. Wolf, thanks for the constant. Yeah. You know what, Fatty? I genuinely, as I was watching that Seahawks game, I was like, Fatty fucking Mateo, baby. He better have listened. I hope you went him. It sounds like you did, because that stack has been great, and it was never better. It won someone $1 million genuinely last week. A Geno double stack, I think, was the $1 million winner. So, hell yeah, let's go. First round bye, 4th straight season, at least a shot at it. Let's go, Fatty. You've been a legend. You've been here a while, and it sounds like the results are in the pudding here. I don't know what the questions are, so I hope I didn't miss one for you guys, but please let me know. My man, Texas Hustler, the ultimate hype man. Texas is watching. Give thumbs up to the realest guys in fantasy football. All the news, no BS. Daddy Davis or Marquise Brown. Will Marquise? Both big ceilings. I feel a little bit better about the floor for Marquise. Let's go. Wolfpack for life. Thank you, Texas. Love the hype always. I'll let you guys keep talking. I love the back and forth. You guys are awesome. I'm going to find the questions, though. Who do I start? I play a 2 receiver, running back, 1 flex for Brooks. Welcome to the show, Brooks. New name out there? Please consider hitting that sub button if you like the show so far. And that goes to all you out there. We'd love to have you. We're climbing to 3K, and it's so awesome to see so many repeats this year. Like, first show, coming back. Either we did it right or you at least got entertained, and that's a good thing. But hopefully we got it right, more importantly. But let's see what we got for you, Brooks. Henry, CMC, Legends, Chase, Jesus. This is Brooks. How many leagues are in this team? So I'm going to go Amon-Ra over Saquon. Very high floors for both, but St. Brown is just a monster. It is last healthy games. Like, the receptions are just insanity. So yeah, I'm going St. Brown there. Dolchich, Okonkwo, or Font. I'm going to go Dolchich, Giuseppe. But I like all those options, like relatively for tight end at least. Rose, receiver off the wire. Hollins, McKenzie, Marshall, Robinson, or Duvernay. Kind of like McKenzie. If I can get a piece of the Bills, if I'm going into the shit, let's go for the most explosive offense. Pick 2 flex PPR. Gallup, Chuba, Pickens, or Zay Jones. Not Chuba. I think I'm going to go Pickens and Gallup here, Giuseppe. Who do I start? Saquon or Amon? Amon. Hope Truth's son has a banging, stone cold. Comes out to, I remember Truth that when we talked together at Kip, we'd have like the song fest at the end of the week, and he'd come out to Triple H. It's all about the game with like the trophy that we'd hand out for the winning team. So Truth knows all about wrestling entrance. Staffy Campanelli. It's fucking legendary. It was the best. There's got to be a clip out there. We'll got to find it so you can see Truth coming out to the game. All right. My guy, Wolf. Like the video, y'all. Thank you, Krana. Always good to see you. Favorite dessert? A little fancy. Creme brulee. Give me that little, like, toasted, like, crack it. Oh, it's so fucking good. I'm not a big dessert guy in general, so if I'm going to get a dessert, I kind of want the experience, too. Geno or Kyler? Ooh, 7 and 8. I'm going Kyler. I'm going Geno. Safer. Go Geno. Philly or Chiefs defense? Chiefs. Because that way you also have them for that playoff run. Philly. Yeah. They get the Broncos. Always go against the Broncos. Dolchicks or Henry? I'm going Hunter Henry Krana. Great questions all around. And we do got a super chat from Rose. Let me find. Oh, super sticker. And then there's a question ahead of it. So thank you for the sticker. And let's find out what we got, Rose Wash. Need a receiver. Oh, I think you just asked this one. And I think I got that. McKenzie, Mac Hollins, DeMarcus, or Duvernay. I'm going to go McKenzie. I'd rather get a piece of that explosive offense. He's been right around a 70% snap player the last couple of weeks. Give me Isaiah McKenzie there, Rose. Next man up, though, I really like DeMarcus Robinson. I talked to him in my Hail Marys. 9 or 8 targets in 3 of his last 5. Huntley really locked in on him. I think he might even have the higher floor than McKenzie, but I'd rather just have a piece of the Bills. You know what I mean? So I'm leaning McKenzie, but it's like 2 spots, him and Robinson. I mean, these guys are all in their same exact tier, Rose. It's a tough call, but I'm going to go with McKenzie. All righty, back to where we left off. We were at favorite dessert. So T. Higgins or Garrett Wilson? I'm going to go T if he's healthy, but we got to obviously track that. If it's like even a risk at all, Garrett Wilson's a great fill-in, Rage Rod. But yeah, we'll see. Thank you again, Rose, for the super chat. Hopefully that helps answer. McKenzie was my pick. Stephen Barry, pick one. DPJ, Boyd, or Burks. Burks isn't going to be playing. Even if it does, I'd be nervous. So I'm going to go DPJ. Go for the deep bomb. Brian Lewin's wife. Oh, yeah. Good to meet you, Nicola. Tell Brian I say hello. We're in the playoff hunt. Let's go, baby. I love the show. Thank you. Go Cross, go indeed. Need a receiver off the wire. Oh, yes. We just answered that one for you, Rose. I know. Shiny new toy. Yeah, I get it. I get that shiny new toy, but Kirk is legit. Do not bench him. James Cook, Bam, White, Jamal. Full PPR, need one for flex. I'm going to go Jamal. I mean, that touchdown is just, it's like a lock every week. It's guaranteed. And then you got that ultimate Michael carry on, the ultimate blueprint for defense. Madison, P. Ryan, Zay Jones, Akers. A lot of great options here, Nicola. Nicola. I hope I'm saying your name right. I'm sorry if I'm not. To me, it comes down to the running backs. I think if you don't have to start them, P. Ryan might be the best because we just saw the upside. James Cook really, really intrigues me. Of course, Madison we've seen it, top 15 upside if something happens. Top 5 upside, rather. So to me, it's Cook, it's P. Ryan, or it's Madison. I love them all. It's not any of the others. If you don't need to use them, you're just stashing them. If I had to pick one of those guys, it'd probably be Cook because I'm more intrigued to see what he does this week. The other two need injury, P. Ryan or Madison, whereas Cook could just take over and be the lead back for the most explosive offense in the league. Henry or Chigo? I'm going to go Henry over that matchup against Atlanta. I love it. Oh, Jose, I don't know if you're still there. I guess I misunderstood your question. Picking up Jameson, not Jamal. That changes a lot. And so I'll say this. I remember part of the question was, is it worth it to drop any of those guys? No, I wouldn't. I'd keep all the guys you listed because Jameson, he's so great long-term as an option, but I don't think he's going to come into anything this year. If it is, it's going to be like the last couple of weeks of the year, and I don't know that you can trust him by then. So all the other guys you listed, I remember liking and be like, I don't want to drop these guys for Jamal, but I would. Jameson, I don't need to roster at this point. So sorry, Jose. I hope you're there and caught that. Must-win game, PPR, Jacoby or Cam. So Goomba, I think you got to go Cam because there's a chance Jacoby doesn't play. He's not practicing at all this week so far. If I knew in PPR that Jacoby was 100% locked in, I'd probably go him. But he might not be playing. So Akers is in a good enough spot. A lot of risk. If they get game flowed out early, he's going to suck. But plenty of reward, too. A lot of touchdown upside tonight as well. White or Ayuk for the flex? Alex, I don't love either this week. I don't trust Ayuk with Purdy, though. So I guess I go White and just hope for like dump-offs. But I don't love either. Ray Gamer. Start 2 in standard. We got, let's see here. Knight. So that's Zonovan. I'm guessing Akers, Cook, Debo, or Evans. One running back. Okay. I was going to say both receivers probably. I go Evans at receiver, and I go Knight at running back, Ray Gamer. I go, good one. Fant at tight end. I like Okonkwo. Ronald Okonkwo. So here's the answer for this one. If Burks is out, it's Okonkwo. If Burks is in, it's Fant. How about that? Starting Kyler, Lamb, Hollywood. Yeah, good lineup. Good lineup. Yeah, you got to sit P. Ryan, assuming Mixon's back. If Mixon's out, I might bench Hollywood Brown if he could be a flex for you. Need 2 for flex. Gallup, Palmer, Boyd, Nico. Nico's not playing, most likely Richard. Rondale's most likely not playing. So it comes down to Gallup, Palmer, Boyd, and I think I'm benching Boyd. Yeah, fantasy dude just dropped Kyron for Homer. Kyron's going to go crazy tonight. Everybody pick up Kyron Williams for the fantasy dude right now. That's how it goes, right? I like the move, though. I would have done the same, especially if you need someone to use. If it's for a stash, like Kyron might have a little more long tail, but I'm intrigued to see what Homer does. He could be a 20-touch guy this week, and what if they just kind of rip it up? Forgot to mention Palmer as well for the question. You'd have to repeat the question, Ray. It's tough for me to remember what you guys asked when I'm answering a bunch of these. You're big on Herbert for the playoffs. You really think he plays weeks 16, 17? So I'm big on him, Steven, solely as a handcuff. If something happens to Montgomery, he's one of the few backs similar to Madison where it's like locked in top 10 guy. So of these guys, probably rather have Herbert than Warren, though. Yeah, because even if something happened to Najee, we know Snell's going to be mixing in now. Warren would have been sexier if we knew he's the 3-down back. So I'm going Herbert over him. Yeah. So Baker not starting, but we'll see him tonight, according to Campanelli. Thank you for the updates, Camp. Weird Rams. Raiders defense sounding even better now. Bye weeks are killing me for a win and get in. Oh, let's go, fantasy. You got any questions for it? Let me know. We got 5 minutes till kickoff. That's the last question. I'm here, though, so if we got questions, let them rip. I'll stay till kickoff. I'm going to crack a fresh beer for it, so I'll be right back, folks. But while I do, go grab that beer. Please consider that thumbs up button. Be so greatly appreciated. A lot of new names. Rose, Fantasy Dude. I don't see you guys. Ray Gamer. Please do subscribe to the channel if you like it. We're here answering your questions 4 times a week. Would love to have you. I'll be right back with a freshie. Would love to see some more questions. We got 5 minutes till kickoff. I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. Let's go. All righty, what else have we got? Njoku, Ingram, or Okonkwo. If Njoku's in Rose, it's Njoku for me. If not, I do like Okonkwo, but I'd probably go Ingram there. If Burks is out, though, it's going to be closer. Come back on Sunday morning so we can kind of have a little more information to decide. We have a lot to decide on there. Tua or Herbert. Oh, my 5 and 6, but I do have Herbert a spot higher. It's close. Ooh, that could flip-flop for me, Alex. That could flip-flop for sure. How you feel about Higbee? Asked the fantasy dude. Not good. If he's in, he's blocking right now. I have no interest in starting him. Good stuff. Awesome insight. Hey, good stuff. Stephen Barry, I appreciate it. Love seeing some first-timers. If you enjoy the show, please do consider subscribing. Cracking into it. If you like beers, you probably know that Julius. Oh, that's one of my top of all times. So, yeah, Treehouse is absolutely the business. So, clearly, you know Julius. So, yeah, if you enjoy the show, please do consider coming back, guys. Subbing to that show, helping us get to 3K, hitting that thumbs up. Nothing better than a freshly poured, freshly cracked. Let's go. Akers Snyder, start Bam Knight. That's a really tough one. Herpely. I personally like Zonovan Knight a little bit more. It's a toss-up. And I'm worried about benching Akers and having him score 2. But I just feel good about Bam. You know, again, 20-plus touches, 17-plus touches in 2 straight weeks, 100 total yards or more in 2 straight weeks. Team talking about even with Carter back, full-time role. is going to be Bam's. I'm a big fan of Bam. I am. I just passes the eyeball test more than Akers for me right now. Akers much more susceptible to the game flow, in my opinion. Yeah, all the goal line work going to Bam. I'm into Bam. Last out on Titans for Week 16. Cards or Steelers to run with Eagles. I don't know, Campanelli, off the top of my head, who the Cards or Steelers have in Week 16. We'll say this. I missed out on the Titans, too. I bid $1. They went for $2. Motherfucking Liam. I do know I like the Broncos and I like the Rams that week. That's who I'm kind of looking as my Week 16 plug for my Chiefs. I don't love Corey Davis, Alex, but I get it. 10 targets last week. Buffalo, it is not the Buffalo of the past where it's like, you're not starting anybody against them. Forget about it. But I don't love it. I don't. Like, it's Corey Davis. I've been scorned. I'm biased against Corey. I've been scorned in the past. I need to know who your other options are, but I don't love it. I also get what you're saying, though. This is not a Buffalo that you can't throw against. Of these, especially if Watt's out, I'm definitely going San Fran probably anyways, but especially if Watt is out, Alex. Without Watt, that defense is one of the worst in the league. It's crazy how big of a difference one player makes. And San Fran, I like the spot for them. They do. The Jets have the second easiest passing schedule. The Green Bay Packers have the easiest. So they do have a good playoff schedule, dude. I'm aware. Every time I've trusted Davis, he dumps on my chest. I've had enough Corey Davis diarrhea for a lifetime. Don't need any more splattered on my chest. Thanks, guys. Cards play Tampa and Steelers play Raiders for Week 16. All righty. I don't love either, Dave. They're not worth a roster spot. Like, I'd rather have Hilliard in case something happens to Henry. We figure that out. Week 16, we can pick it up. It's not worth burning a hole in your roster for the next 2 weeks. Yeah, got your thumbs up. Good to see. Joe, you think I go Wilson. How do you bench the guy? Back-to-back 20-point days. Mike White has just unlocked the I think he's elite. I love the player, Garrett Wilson. Love him. Love him. And yet, tough matchup against Buffalo, but as we were just talking about with Alex, like, it's not impossible, Not impossible at all. So I'm playing Garrett. I am. That's tough. Leading the league in points in 6th, 7th place. Fantasy is a motherfucker, huh? Joe, that just sounds like no matter what choice you make, it's probably going to be wrong. And you're probably going to miss it, even though you're just cursed this year. I hope not. I'm knocking on wood for you, and I'm hoping, you found us. I told you Garrett Wilson. He puts up 30 for you. You lock in your playoff spot. You go to the title. That's what I hope for. But that's a tough situation when you're at that many points, and you're probably just facing, Mixon 55, Aaron Jones 4, all the blow-ups. Alex, if he's out for obviously, it was 4 weeks left in the season. So if we get IR and he's out for 4 weeks, what's the point of having him, The one risk is, if it's even just 2 weeks and you drop him, you make it to the championship, someone picks up Lamar, puts up 30 on you. As long as there's a chance he's playing the rest of the year, you can't drop him. If we get IR and we know he's out 4 weeks, then see ya. Or out 3, that's how I read that one, Alex. All righty, Wolfpack, I think it is about kickoff time, so I got a freshly poured beer. I can't wait to go drink. I hope you guys get everything you need. I appreciate you. A little bit less of you here today, but a lot of new names, which I love to see. Please consider subbing, coming back. Hit that thumbs up on your way out. Would be so appreciated. I'll be live on Sunday morning, 10:45 a.m. with my guy, CJ. Answering all your questions. Then RotoStreetJournal.com is where you can find all our content, including my rankings. I'll update them all weekend. Got plenty of good articles, too, up there. Check it on out, Wolfpack. Playing that for, oh, God. Damn. You are in a tough spot, Joe. Have a good one, Fantasy Dude. Real nice to meet you guys. Joe, nice to meet you guys. Hope you come back to future shows. Hopefully see you that Sunday morning stream, baby. Cheers. Best of luck to all you guys out there. Let's go.